guys, in this video I will be reviewing Godmothered, which is a Disney film. It just came out recently on Disney+. So Godmothered is about Eleanor, who is a training godmother, and she wants nothing more than to be a full-fledged godmother and make people's dreams come true. The film starts off with you just seeing the world that she lives in, and there's narration, and this narration is just explaining, basically they're giving you the opening of what their life is like and what, you know, and Eleanor, and talking about Eleanor, that she's the main character and blah, 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 blah. The film itself is about Eleanor. She's trying to save the motherland, which is where she lives. She ends up finding a letter from a little girl. She goes to go help this little girl and finds out that this little girl is no longer a little girl. She is a woman who has kids, and she doesn't believe in happily ever after or love anymore. This review I'm doing will contain spoilers, so if you do not want to be spoiled, please leave now. And if you've already seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers, grab a snack. So I want to start off by saying that Eleanor is my favorite character because the character itself, she's just so pure and so innocent, and she's got this, I don't want to say this childlike mentality, but she is so blissful into happily ever, you know, like she believes in the whole spiel, happily ever after, and helping people and just being so happy, and it's a wonderful thing to just watch somebody be that. And I really enjoyed the film just because of how her character is portrayed and how her character is written. The woman who plays her does a really good job. Like, she's phenomenal. Everything was totally believable. I didn't see anything that made me think, you know, odd of her or weird of her. All the acting honestly was really good. Even the girls, just the girl that she goes to help, Mackenzie Walsh, has two girls. The girls, I didn't see any particular issue with them. They seemed really like okay as far as acting wise. As far as the story itself, it's an interesting take. I wouldn't say it's a cliche story because I don't really think I've ever heard or watched another film that has, like, you know, a godmother theme to it, or exploring the lives of a godmother. I just think there could have been a lot more to the film. I think that there could have been a lot more, I guess, hardship or troubles. The film just kind of comes off very like typical Disney film. It's very lollipops and sugars and gumdrops. It's not a bad film per se. It's weird. It's like, for me, it's hard to criticize and judge one of these films because a lot of times I say, well, that's something that's happening in the film is not realistic, where the entire film itself is not realistic. But sometimes I feel like there are certain films that kind of go out of the boundaries of what's realistic and what's not, and what should be, I guess, realistic and what's not. For instance, in the movie, there's one scene where she turns the watermelon into a carriage, and this carriage just flying around. People are noticing it, so it's catching attention. I thought about it and I was annoyed, but at the same time, one could say the same thing for the movie Elf, where, you know, Buddy finally finds Santa, or vice versa, and Santa and him are just swooping around the town, and that's what makes people believe. But in this sense, for me, or at least from what we've always been told to believe, godmothers are supposed to be kept in secret, you know? We're not supposed to know that they exist, because that's the whole thing. It's that you're supposed to believe. The whole thing is, you know, seeing is believing, but sometimes you don't have to see to believe, you just believe in your heart. If we're going for that notion, then that's why I think, for me, it's a little stretch over of what should be acceptable, especially because several times in the film, she does things that cannot be explained, and people are just taking it in strides, not really being that concerned about it. And then towards the end of the climax of the film, both godmothers are just standing on stage saying, yeah, godmothers exist, and doing real magic in front of people. And to me, that just seems a little, it's almost like Superman, you know? Clark Kent in front of a bunch of people. To me, it just was like, wait, like, I thought you guys were supposed to not, I thought people weren't supposed to know about these beings existing. I could be wrong. Maybe they're changing it. I don't know. I thought that was weird, and it just stuck out to me in the film. This film is not traditional. Like, she goes to help her find her happily ever after, but in the end, of course, the mother just ends up saying that her happily ever after, or her true happiness, is her kids, being a mom. And so it's kind of different from what you would normally expect. You would think it's going to be a cliche where she ends up falling in love with the guy. And there is a guy. There's a love interest, but the film decides not to go this way and decides to just focus on the whole another meaning of love. Kind of like what they did in Frozen, where true love could unfreeze Anna and it ended up being Elsa. So kind of like a sisterly love. They kind of took that take here. which I think is fine. I have no problem with that because, once again, love comes in all different shapes and forms. And that's, I guess, that's the whole meaning of the film. Because of that, they decide to change how they do things, and so that's why they start flourishing. So I guess when you think of it that way, the film is very nice. It's funny, but to me, the most of the funniness just comes from Eleanor. Like I said, her character, how she interacts with other people. I had a question as to why she seems so unaware of how they do things on Earth. I just feel like as you're being trained to be a godmother, you're being trained to go into Earth, you should know, you should be able to blend in for as much as you have to so that you don't stick out. My whole thing is that's the thing. It's like, I thought they were supposed to be secret. I thought that they weren't supposed to let people know they existed, but the film doesn't really seem to indicate that. So she's acting like a complete nutcase, or at least she sounds like a nutcase to several different people. It doesn't really alarm anyone. They just think she's a basket case. But that's where most of the humor in the film comes from. There's one moment where a woman talks to Siri and she thinks it's a genie, and she's like, don't answer it. Like, it's funny, but at the same time, you can't help but think, like, why is she not trained better to know those things so that she doesn't draw attention to herself? But like I said, the film doesn't make it seem like that's something she needs to do. If you don't pay too much attention to that, then yes, the film can be very funny. They do this thing though where they have a freaking raccoon the entire part of the movie, or the entire movie comes in the beginning, and it's like one of her helper animals, like, you know, like classic Snow White / Cinderella thing where the animal helps her clean. But then the movie decides to take it too far and just have this freaking raccoon in the house the entire movie, and every now and then they're kind of like screaming the raccoon's name, like as kind of like a "it did it" kind of thing. It's, for me, it was kind of annoying, and it became a little too sitcom-y / cartoony, and I was just like, okay, can we move past this? Like, it's not funny anymore. It was like they just kept replaying the same kind of like humor, and I was just like, okay, not funny anymore. And then another thing that happens that I thought was a little weird, for me at least, was that when she turns the carriage into, they're having a parade, and that's where the end of the climax of the film comes, that the girl is trying to make it to her parade performance. And so they find Eleanor trying to turn this watermelon into a carriage. She does so, but there's completely nobody around when she does this. And they look like they're in a they look like in a location that would be busy. It looks like a district of sorts with, like, you know, a little cart around it, and it just looks like a busy place. It looks like it would be a busy place. To be honest, it actually looks like, I think the park, when they went to the park and they sing, it looks like it's that place again. I could be wrong, but she says she's at the farmer's market or whatever. So it's kind of isolated though, and she's able to openly do this huge display of magic without no one really noticing. Not only that, there's another scene where she uses her magic openly and no one says anything, and I think it's very weird. Like when she ends up getting a seafood allergy or whatever, and she gives her the EpiPen, she literally jumps up and has her wand in her hand and shoots out and makes this huge display of fireworks. And no one saw that. She was already attracting attention to herself because she was having an anaphylactic shock or whatever. I just don't understand how no one saw that. There was no witnesses to this woman picking up her wand. And the pacing of the film is okay. Like I said, I feel like a lot of things could have been done a lot more. A lot of it is spent on her trying to fix her job, make her job work. They don't really spend too much time with her trying to get to know this guy who's clearly interested in her, and vice versa. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's really a romantic type of film. So if you're gonna look at this as being a rom-com, it's not. It's, like I said, it's more of a comedy / lighthearted child film. There really wasn't much to say about this film. It's just a classic cliche Disney film that has a little bit of a different meaning than usual, but it's still whatever. It's not entirely bad. It's nice to watch with kids. I'm gonna go ahead and just rate it. I'm gonna go ahead and rate Disney's Godmothered a 3 out of 5. Guys, thanks so much for watching this review. If you've seen Godmothered, of course, I would love to hear anything that you have to say about the film. What didn't you like? What did you like? And I will catch you guys on the next one. See ya!